Kevin, first off, I'm a huge Blu-ray and DVD fan. So excited that the Mauritanian comes out on Blu-ray and DVD on May 11th. Wondering for you, do you have enough space in your residence to house a whole bunch of Blu-rays and DVDs? And maybe with streaming and I guess your hectic work schedule, I'm sure you don't have thousands of that stuff in your home.
I got quite a few. They're there. You can see. I don't know. There's a lot of them there in those shelves. Uh, but no, look, it reaches a stage, doesn't it, where you can't have any more. And when you can have umpteen endless Blu-rays or DVDs at your fingertips, as it were, online, you know, it's hard. So I tend to only buy the things that I really, really want, and that owning them means something, and I want to see the extras, and I want, that's what I do.
No, very quickly before we get to your film, I remember Paul Thomas Anderson said for the Blu-ray of Bad Day Black Rock, he just listened to John Sturgis's commentary and it really helped him become a filmmaker. Wondering, regarding your wall, what Blu-ray or DVD would you recommend to our listeners as far as a movie that really means a lot to you?
Well, a movie that actually impacted a lot on the Mauritanian, the movie we're going to talk about, is a great film from their mid '60s called The Battle of Algiers by Pontecorvo, which is like I guess a huge inspiration to me as a realist kind of movie about a civil war in Algeria, or the war between the liberation war between the Algerians and the French, who were the colonial occupiers there. And it's so modern and so in your face, and I think it's influenced a lot of filmmakers. But there's a great Criterion disc that has a lot of good stuff on it, so that's the one I go back to again and again.
No, this is a movie that I will get back to again and again. There's so many things to get from the Mauritanian. I just want just really talk on the human level regarding Mamadou. The fact that when people cut us off on the freeway, we get mad and we may be filled with rage. But can you speak to the fact about how inspiring he is for you as a collaborator? Because that rage and that anger doesn't seem to boil within him. He's a man of spirit and he's just a man of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, and it surprises people when I say this is not a political film. Yeah, it's about Guantanamo, but actually it's about the human spirit, and it's about these three incredible characters played by Jodie Foster, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Tahar Rahim, who plays Mohamedou, and how how this building of Guantanamo prison and what goes on there impacts their lives. And but the reason I made the movie was because I met Mohamedou. I met him digitally like this because he's in Mauritania and I'm in London. And I was expecting to speak to a guy who's been imprisoned, without charge for 14 years, and who is angry as hell and resentful and just full of rage. And instead, you get a guy who's funny, who's warm, he's cracking jokes, and he's full of forgiveness. And he says, forgiveness is when you've gone through what I've gone through, forgiveness is a gift you can give to yourself because it makes you feel actually better. If you're eaten up by rage and anger, it destroys you, and it doesn't really help. You're not going to be your vengeance on whoever did this to you, and that's not going to help. And he also says, that he sees all the guards and all the people who mistreated him in Guantanamo as human beings. He's curious about them. How did they come to do this? Why did they behave in this way? And in fact, he became friends with a lot of those guards. One of them recently went on vacation to see him in Mauritania. Another one called his kid after him, because he reached out to them on a human level. And that's what I want people to take away from this movie. It's a movie about a human being going through a horrible experience, but who comes out with his spirit unaffected.
I'm sure you've received a million questions about how great this movie is and the performances, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to actually ask you about the score because it's so hard to achieve a score that's evocative yet not manipulative. And what was the key for you as far as just getting that right score for this movie? I thought it was perfect.
Well, thank you. Well, it was really, really hard to get the right score. I went through 3 composers before I ended up with Tom. So that was, as you can imagine, my producers wanted to kill me. But there was something about the tone that was really hard. As you say, you want something that pushes the movie along, that gives it momentum, that it has an emotional underlay at the moments where you want that emotion, but that is not manipulative. There's not cliched Hollywood kind of use of strings and things. And so actually Tom Hodge, who did it, he managed just to find a tone which just worked for me. And it's hard to talk about music. It's hard to say, oh, it didn't work because of this or it worked because of that. But it just felt like, he's in the right place emotionally. And also, another thing that one of the things I tried early on with the film was you layering in, North African music, because Mauritania is in North Africa, and that didn't work. It felt kind of cheesy, but we ended up using Mauritanian music at the very beginning when he's in Mauritania, and the very end when he gets out and he's back in his home country. But other than that, yes, it's Tom's very sort of sparse classical score with bits of electronica in there.
My last question is a two-parter. My first part of the question is, I'm a huge fan of your body of work, and just wondering, growing up, were the films of filmmakers like Samuel Fuller or Sidney Lumet, were they an influence on you as a storyteller and as a filmmaker? And the second part of my question is, how good does it feel now, several years later, that a movie like How I Live Now continues to resonate with just new cinephiles?
Well, you know what? There's one of the great things about living in the digital era that we do is that your old work, like How I Live Now, which is now 70 years old or something, that movie, which was not a big hit when it came out, it kind of disappeared. But nowadays, people have gone to it because it's got this incredible cast. It's got George Mackay, who was in 1917. It's got the amazing Saoirse Ronan, and it's got Tom Holland, who's a super Spider-Man now, and in every movie I seem to watch. And so this was like them as kids. Tom was 16, Saoirse was 17, going. I think she had her 18th birthday on set. George was the oldest; he was 19. So people have gone back to that, and that's a wonderful thing about streaming. Particularly during lockdown, people have gone back and rediscovered older movies and had the time to do a bit of research. What was your first question again?
Oh, just about sorry, very quickly, just Sidney Lumet and Samuel Fuller, because
Oh
I
yeah.
just
Well, Samuel Fuller. It's funny you mentioned him. He was the first Hollywood filmmaker I ever met because he used to go to the Edinburgh Film Festival, and I'm from Scotland. And he was friendly with somebody who was something to do with that festival. I think they'd been one of the first places where they'd done retrospectives of his work, and he used to show up. And so I met him with his big cigar, and so he's always been my idea of that's the Hollywood director. That's where you should learn his rough voice and a cigar. And yeah, and his films. I don't think they necessarily directly influenced me, but there's something about the no nonsense, tough, based in reality, kind of in your face quality of his movies that I really love and appreciate. Sidney Lumet, likewise, he takes reality and he takes it somewhere, you still feel the grit of reality, but it becomes art. It becomes, some of his beautiful camera work, some of his beautiful stylizations, but it still feels real. So yeah, both those filmmakers is interesting. I hadn't thought of Samuel Fuller for years, and thank you for bringing him up.
okay. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your film, and hope to talk to you down the road again.
Great. Lovely to
Great,
talk to you. Bye bye.
great. Bye bye. Thank you.